It is hard to believe that we are only 91 days into this administration. 91 days. And I have multiple gray hairs that indicate otherwise, right? That the time has been longer, but actually it has not. And as the Pentagon swirls into chaos, as the markets careen into just hell. It's clear Donald Trump and his sycophants don't know how to run government. If I guess if you think running it well means running it into the ground, then they are doing a bang up fucking job. Friends, we are going to get into all of this and more today on the Danielle Moodie Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Monday. Let's get into it. So we start off today with the news that I'm certain many of you woke up to, as I did, which is that Pope Francis has passed away from complications due to a cerebral stroke. He had been sick for quite some time. And yeah, it's just, I am not a Catholic. I don't subscribe to any organized religion, but I am a person of deep faith and spiritual practice. And I will say that, you know, this Pope showed so much growth over his time, from his acceptance of LGBTQ plus Americans, not Americans, people, to, talking about the war on Gaza, to speaking out on climate change, to really advocating, right, for people to show their best, uh, to be of service to others, right? To not weaponize faith and spread lies. Like he really held truth to the tenets of his faith and tried to guide others through that. And, it just, I wonder what the conclave that will happen to elect the next pope. I wonder, whether or not they will, follow in the steps and tradition of Pope Francis or be a radical change. And I think that as we see the world descend into autocracy, I think that having moral leadership and a compass that reminds us of our collective humanity is incredibly important. And so I hope that that is what we will see moving forward, but unsure, friends. But as you know, Pope Francis, a reformer, he rattled the Catholic Church's conservatives and inspired some progressives. He was Argentina born and was 88. They say that his cause of death was a stroke that prompted irreversible heart failure, according to a death certificate issued by the Vatican. Quote, he taught us to live the values of the gospel with faithfulness, courage, and universal love, especially in favor of the poorest and the marginalized. Cardinal Kevin Farrell said in a statement announcing the Pope's death. You know, I know, many of you that watch this are of, of multiple faiths or of no faith at all. I celebrated, the Easter holiday with my family and very close friends. And, I tell you that what this time of great strife, of grief, of woe, has really allowed me to put clarion focus on, which is what is important, right? That the blow by blow headlines of Donald Trump and his mayhem aren't important. What is important is holding your family close, whether that be your born family or your chosen family. Really finding ways to be of service at this time when so many are losing so much, whether it be their jobs, right? Or their faith in how this country moves forward. I think that all of us can use this time as an opportunity to really delve into being our better selves, particularly when we are provided a reflection of just what is so terrible, um, and not lose our way and lose our faith in what is possible because we get trapped into this particular moment, needing to remind ourselves that all of these moments will pass, right? They have in history. It is just a matter of time. But how do you keep your faith? How do you stay grounded? How do you pay attention to what matters most? That is where I think we can learn lessons from the late Pope. So, in some good news that happened over the weekend, I know that some of you last week said that you were going to be joining in on 5051's uh, protest. Tell me in the chat or in the comment section after this airs, where did you show up? What did the protests look like in your area? But protesters filled the streets and cities across the U.S. to denounce Trump agenda. Organizers call for 11 million people to march and rally in this weekend's effort to protect democracy. What I saw a ton of, and again, I don't know if it's my feed, my algorithm, right, to a certain extent, but it was a lot of photos coming out of this weekend, a lot of people in the streets all across the country. And I thought that that was really encouraging. It is encouraging to see these protests. And what was written here is that protesters poured into the streets of cities and towns across the United States again on Saturday in the second wave of protests this month, as organizers seek to turn discontent with Donald Trump's presidency into a mass movement that will eventually translate into action at the ballot box. By early afternoon, large protests were underway in Washington, New York, and Chicago, with images of crowds cascading across social networks, showing additional demonstrations in Rhode Island, Maryland, Wisconsin, Tennessee, South Carolina, Ohio, Kentucky, California, Pennsylvania, among others. Americans abroad also signaled their opposition to the Trump agenda in Dublin, Ireland, and other cities. More than 400 rallies were planned, most loosely organized by the group 5051, which stands for 50 protests in 50 states and one movement. For one, I found it totally encouraging. Like I continue to say, the boycotts that people are participating in against Target, against Amazon, against those, right, that want to take your money by day and then vote against your rights at night. By places that want to, as we talked about today on Democracy-ish, which if you did not catch Democracy-ish today at 12 p.m. Eastern, the video is up now. But, what we are seeing, right, is that people more and more, as these protests go on, they're not getting smaller in size. They are getting bigger in size. And I continue to say that we are going to see these things grow as the months get warmer, as we move into summertime. I think that we are going to see a lot more people out. And also know that 51 is organizing food drives and clothing drives and other things to help people activate inside their community. But, I continue to say boycotting is important. Protests are important. Calling your representatives are important. It is necessary for us to remember that the power that is inside of this country is the people. And once the people are truly activated, then their politicians and their representatives follow suit. So we have got to keep the foot on the gas, keep people continually informed about what is happening, but continue to lift up right from the grassroots out, knowing that no one is coming to save us in this moment but us. So I continue to say, um, you know, ask your elected officials, as was asked by that disgusting woman who cursed out one of her constituents over the weekend and then thought to post it on social media because she was going to get what? Some props from her rabid, disgusting base. The base isn't growing, by the way. But I digress, and I don't want to give her any more. I hate that woman. Nancy Mace is just, she's so vile. She's so vile of a human. Um and that constituent did not deserve what they got, and it just shows the disgust, right? The contempt. Anyway. So, today's big story. Big story. I mean, Pete Hegseth, another signal chat? Like a signal chat with people who had no clearance whatsoever? I just imagine Pete Hegseth to be probably one of the biggest tools. Just like the guy who shouldn't have any power because he's not smart, he has no strategic thinking, no critical thinking, but just a lot of tattoos, just a big meathead, right? And that he's just like, hey guys, look at this cool job I got. Let me show you some of the cool stuff that I'm doing there, like dropping bombs. And like, I can imagine him being like that little kid that learns a new dance and it's like, mommy, look, what would be the need for you to have another signal chat that includes your wife, your brother in law, and your attorney? If not to just show off, look how cool my job is. I get to kill people. Like it, I just like the incompetency aside, it's just so like they're just a bunch of stupid, dumb, like boys. Do you know what I'm saying? Like these are not men with serious jobs who have like serious roles and understand like the breadth and depth of the responsibility that they have. They're just a bunch of fucking stupid teenage boys who are just like rolling around, like high-fiving each other and sending fucking fire emojis about how cool they are. And they just, what they have done with their elimination of diversity, equity, and inclusion is just showcase how fucking stupid and mediocre white men can be. Like, that's what they've done. Because, there's no one to blame for this. There's no one to put this on. They can't put it on a woman or a black person or a person of color or a person with disabilities or say, oh, yeah, it's the DEIs. That's why the signal chats are all blown up. No, you're just fucking incompetent. And thank you for showcasing exactly why we needed diversity, equity, and inclusion, because you all, right, white, straight, cis, hetero, pseudo-Christian, tough guys don't know your head from your asshole. and just continue to put us in danger every single goddamn day. Right? Okay. I'm angry. You know what it is? I can't decide between whether it is Pete Hegseth's appointment or RFK Jr.'s appointment that makes me the most livid. I can't figure it out, right? Pete Hegseth puts us in a complete and total national security threat all the time, both internally and externally. And then RFK Jr. has just threatened the health, safety, and well being of everyone inside of this country, 330 million Americans, as we're undergoing a measles outbreak, which we haven't seen a measles outbreak in this country since the 90s. So I can't, I don't know. I know people are saying it can be both and, but it's like, for the love of God. Anyway, also close up pictures of Donald Trump. Do not recommend. So the White House has begun the process. This is according to a story that broke this afternoon at NPR. The White House has begun the process of looking for a new leader at the Pentagon to replace Pete Hegseth. And all I'm saying is there has to be another megalomaniac that Donald Trump can choose from that actually has some type of, resume and skill. Like there has to have been some Republican that also was a general, that also like was actually in the military and had worked there. I may not agree with any of the things that these people do, but can we have somebody that maybe wasn't a talk show host that is in charge of the Pentagon? Just maybe. He wasn't even a fucking like prime time Fox host. He was the weekend host. Okay. I think it's him. I think he's the one that makes me the most angry today. So, they're talking about replacing Pete Hegseth, which I'm like, TikTok, right? Like, what are we waiting for? Because all little like rumblings that are coming outside of the Beltway say that other shoes are getting ready to drop with regard to what has been going on inside of the Pentagon. The defense secretary is under fire after revelations that he shared classified information in a group chat with his wife, brother, lawyer, according to another official. Go on to say this. The source said Hegseth used the Signal messaging app on his personal smartphone, detailing, guess what, folks? Minute by minute classified information about airstrikes on the Houthi targets in Yemen. It happened about the same time in March that Hegseth shared similar details with top White House officials in a different Signal chat group that accidentally included a journalist. So here's the thing. He was running these two Signal chats at the same time. Like just copy paste. And you want to know how a journalist got in the Signal group? Who else do we think that Hegseth was fucking sharing this with? Right? Like his buddies at Fox? I'm pretty sure we'll learn about that. Because like I said, they keep saying more shoes are about to drop as it pertains to his last month or so at the Pentagon. So that leak, hours before airstrikes hit, could have endangered U.S. pilots, which we know, if that information about the timing of strikes was intercepted by U.S. adversaries. Already, the Houthis have twice shot down American Predator drones. So this is where things get interesting. So in Politico magazine, John Uloit, that's how I think I pronounce his name, unclear. We're going to say Uloit, wrote an op-ed. Now, what I find interesting about the op-ed that this former top Pentagon spokesperson details the month from hell inside of this agency. If you actually go to Politico, type in this title and read, he starts out with all of this like flowery language about how amazing Donald Trump is, about how what has been happening inside of the Pentagon is an embarrassment to Donald Trump, a man that cares very much about US security and is very definitive and decisive and is a bit. I don't know who John is writing about. I don't know which Trump he knows, but the rest of us don't know that fucking Trump. But okay. So he goes on and he talks about being one of Pete Hegseth's like biggest supporters, that when Hegseth's appointment was under you know, scandal, and it was unlikely that he was going to get approved. This same man, John Ulrich, wrote another op-ed, right, saying that there was nobody better to shake up the Pentagon. I don't understand these people who have jobs that you had to work your way up into, right? That understand the ins and outs, thinking that a person who talks tough on a podcast, right, is the person who should go and be in charge of said agency. Like, I think that I am fairly good at my job. But do I think, right, that I should be the Secretary of State? I mean, I would do a better job than fucking Marco Rubio right now. But like, do I think because I talk about a lot of things that like I should have a specific role inside of government? I mean, granted, still I have a deeper resume than these people do that are in jobs right now. But anyway, so John Ulrich goes on to write this after all the flowery bullshit about Hegseth and Trump that he writes. He says, the latest flashpoint is a near collapse inside the Pentagon's top ranks. On Friday, Hegseth fired 3 of his most loyal senior staffers: Senior Advisor Dan Caldwell, Deputy Chief of Staff Darren Selnick, and Colin Carroll, Chief of Staff to the Deputy Secretary of Defense. In the aftermath, Defense Department officials working for Hegseth tried to smear the aides anonymously to reporters, claiming they were fired for leaking sensitive information as part of an investigation ordered earlier this month. I just want you to think about this for a moment, that these 3 men, have been working with Hegseth for over a decade. These men are loyal to Hegseth. And yet, as he fires them and tries to place blame on all of the chaos that is ensuing at the Pentagon on them, they are smeared on their way out. How does that allow you to stay loyal to this party, knowing that if you make one misstep, that they will trash your entire career and character? And like, they all think for whatever reason, it's not going to happen to me. It's not going to be me. And then it's them. I find it so fascinating that you've seen this play out for over a decade, and yet you think somehow you're going to end up on the right side. It's pure foolishness. So he writes this, John Ulrich. He continues to write, first, there was Signalgate. I prefer to call it Whiskey Leaks, where the secretary shared detailed operational plans, including timelines and specifics about an impending military strike on the Houthis in Yemen, over an unclassified Signal chat group that happened to include a member of the news media. And what he also says, that I'm going to take a pause for a moment, is that he's like, Hegseth received poor PR advice where he was told, this is what John Ulrich writes, and I'm just paraphrasing, that he received poor PR advice when the news broke, right, about Whiskey Leaks, about Signalgate, that he tried to cover it up by saying nothing happened, there's nothing to see here, right? Like, he said on national television, oh, this is a witch hunt, right? And so John Uloit in this Politico piece is like, oh, he got bad advice from a PR firm. No, he didn't. He's following in the same footsteps as Donald Trump. You don't apologize for anything. You admit nothing. No PR agency gave him that advice, because the advice that any PR crisis communications person would do, and by the way, I used to have that role, what they would tell you to do is, first, is there anything else that could possibly come out? Is there anything else that could possibly get leaked that makes this initial leak look like just a crack in the dam and not the entire flood? And if you say you don't know, then guess what they're going to recommend? That you come clean with as much as you possibly can so that you give the media nowhere to go. And what Pete Hegseth did was the complete and total fucking opposite, because he thinks that he has the same protections that Donald Trump has, and that the media is going to treat him in the same way, which they are afraid of Donald Trump. And I use that in like air quotes. But the reality is that he was using the Trump defense, which is no defense, because we don't apologize about shit. Everything that we do was on purpose, right? Like, that's how Trump steps. So Hegseth thought that he could get in front of the cameras and say that Jeff Goldberg, who is the Atlantic editor, who said, I'm in this group and wrote the piece on it, and then laid out the receipts after being called a liar, because Hegseth didn't think for a moment, well, oh, these messages disappear. No, they don't, dummy, because you can screenshot them. So never come out with a lie when somebody can come with receipts behind you. That's like basic crisis communications. So in my opinion, I'm like, John Uloit, who's saying, oh, he got some bad advice. He didn't get bad advice. He was following Trump. But what these people don't recognize is that what works for Donald Trump doesn't work for them. So it goes on. That was just the beginning of the month of hell. The Wall Street Journal and other outlets reported that Hegseth, because it was apparently Bring Your Wife to Work Day, quote, brought his wife, a former Fox News producer, to 2 meetings with foreign military counterparts where sensitive information was discussed. I'm just going to ask the group right now. Have any of you brought your spouses to work for an important meeting that you were having? If they are not an expert on said topic, why the fuck would you be bringing them to work with you for that meeting? Somebody? Anybody? I guess I missed National Bring Your Wife to Work Day, right? And, what is this? Wife number 3, 4? I don't fucking know. But so that's what he did, because that's totally normal. Next, right? The Pentagon set up a top secret briefing by the Joint Chiefs of Staff on China for Elon Musk, who still has, guess what? Extensive business interests in China. After learning about it, the White House canceled that meeting, and by learning about it means that it was leaked. Oh my God. Oh, this is funny. Allison talking about, is she the designated driver and that's why she has to go to work with him? I mean, LOL on that one. I would not put it past him. So I just make it make sense, folks. You hire incompetent, undereducated white men to do a job they cannot do. And then these same people have the audacity to go after Black people who scraped and scrapped in order to get to those positions, having obstacles, racism, misogyny, ageism, all of the things to get to those places. And it's Pete Hegseth who says that our former Secretary of Defense didn't earn his job, the 4-star general. didn't earn his job. Oh, I don't know if he didn't earn his job. Well, I can tell you for sure who the fuck didn't earn their job. Take a look in the mirror, Pete. Like, wash out the whiskey eyes and look real close. It's you, my friend. Before we switch topics, folks, if you have not subscribed to the Danielle Moodie channel right here on YouTube, please do hit that button right now. And if you have not liked or commented or shared this video as it is up right now live, please do so and help the algorithm fairies. I am doing my best to reach 25,000 subscribers by the end of May, and I need all of your help in doing so. So hit subscribe, and also don't forget to hit that bell and make sure that you never miss an episode. All right, back to our regular scheduled fuckery, shall we? Now, friends, I'm not an economist. I tell you this all the time. I didn't even do well in math. But here's something that I do know. Lines on a chart going down, 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 and then just a little bit up, but not all the way back up to where they went down, down, down off of a cliff. Never a good indicator of good things to come. It's usually bad. Line and graph goes down means bad. Okay? So that's where shit left off today with the S&P. Markets slide as Trump renews attacks on Fed chair. Trump's pressure on the Federal Reserve, on top of the uncertainty about his tariff policy, continued to jar investors as stocks, bonds, oil, and yes, the US dollar all tumbled. Friends, look, I am not going to tell you that Wall Street is a great indicator of all things, but here's the thing. I continue to say that our 401ks that people have, their pensions, wrapped up inside of the stock market. And when the stock market doesn't do well, that means that folks' retirement does not do well, which means that, oh, guess what? Bad things happen, meaning that people don't have stability and the chaos ensues. That's what that means. So Wall Street began the day with a slump, but the sell-off gained steam after Trump targeted Powell in a social media post, calling him a, quote, major loser and urging the Fed to cut interest rates. Trump also suggested that an economic slowdown would be Powell's fault. I'm sorry, what? How would an economic turndown be his fault, be Powell's fault? Did Powell initiate a trade war with our allies? Did Powell try and play chicken with China and China said, bok, bok, bitch, because they don't blink? Like, who do you think that people are going to blame for this? They don't know who the fuck Powell is, but they know who you are. And they know that while they're losing money in their 401ks and their pensions, that you're fucking out golfing. That's what everybody knows. They know that right now the markets are going down not because Powell won't cut interest rates right at this moment, but because they're worried about the independence of the feds and our central bank and the independence they have from this motherfucking White House. That's why the markets are reacting the way that they are today. So who do you think that they're going to blame? Who is the loser in this situation? Sir, stop with the projection, okay? Please. So the piece goes on to say that stock investors tend to favor lower interest rates, which make it easier for companies to borrow and expand their businesses. Share prices often rise when investors expect the Fed to cut rates, even if it is the result of bad economic news. But the recent market reaction to Trump's calls for lower rates suggests that investors see the threat to Fed independence as outweighing any benefit from rate moves. So, again, Donald Trump thinks that he can bully everyone and everyone is going to bend the knee. And the reality is that that couldn't be further from the case, right? And I will tell you, friends, I will tell you that this is all just going to continue to get worse. And I wish that it wouldn't, but that's not the reality that we are living in. So we have a bit of breaking news that is coming across right now. And because it is breaking news, apologies because I need to read from my phone. But it looks like Harvard has now sued the Trump administration over the $2.2 billion funding freeze. So guess who else isn't blinking? And that is Harvard. Because what did we say about Harvard? Harvard is older than these United States. Okay, we're talking old money. We're talking crypt keeper money. We're talking like, and I'm sorry to say, we're going like generational white scary wealth type of money. Do you know? So here now, this is according to the Harvard Crimson, and it was just updated at 5:33 p.m. So I'm reading, folks. Harvard sued the Trump administration in federal court on Monday over its multi-billion-dollar cuts to the university's research funding, accusing the White House of undertaking an arbitrary and unconstitutional campaign to, quote, punish Harvard for protecting its constitutional rights. The move comes just one day after the Trump administration reportedly planned to cut another $1 billion in federal grants and contracts from Harvard on top of an existing $2.2 billion cut that was announced last week. And it sets in motion a historic legal clash as Harvard attempts to combat the Trump administration's devastating multi-agency campaign to slash the university's funding in exchange for deep concessions, including federal audits of Harvard's programs, agreements to screen international students for their beliefs, and the installation of administrators who will ensure the White House's demands are carried out. Quote, the trade-off put to Harvard and other universities is clear. Allow the government to micromanage your academic institution or jeopardize the institution's ability to pursue medical breakthroughs, scientific discoveries, and innovative solutions, Harvard lawyers wrote in the Monday filing. The 51-page complaint filed in a United States district court asked for the court to halt and declare unlawful the $2.2 billion freeze, as well as any freeze made in connection with, quote, unconstitutional conditions in the Trump administration's April 3rd and April 11th letters outlining demands to Harvard. And this is from Alan M. Garber, the university's president, quote, we stand for the truth that colleges and universities across the country can embrace and honor their legal obligations and best fulfill their essential role in society without improper government intrusion. Oh, my. Bravo, Harvard. Bravo. You know who I don't want to go up against? Harvard lawyers. Harvard constitutional lawyers. Harvard experts. Do you know what I'm saying? That have put out Oh, I don't know, several Supreme Court justices Harvard has. Several presidents and vice presidents have come from Harvard. It's not. It's not the institution to fuck with. It really is not. And by the way, they received, I think, $1 million in small dollar donations, which over the last couple of the last week or so of them being in the news, that far outreaches their normal pace of receiving of donors of gifts during the same time period last year. So people, whether or not they are affiliated with Harvard, are rallying behind Harvard because they know that if they are able to win against this administration, then all bets will be off. There will be a major crack in the Trump unconstitutional push to reorganize our higher ed institutions in some white supremacist, white delusion like thinking and ideology. So, like I'm saying, Harvard, not the place I want to go up against. And Harvard, a lot of the alumni, are on the federal benches. Maybe some are even on the Supreme Court right now. But they know their stuff, is what I'm saying. And you're going up against what? Trump University lawyers? Where'd they get their degrees from? A Cracker Jack box? They probably misspelled Constitution that they tattooed on their little biceps. Anyway, folks, so that is the breaking news right now. We will see. We will see where this goes because I think, amazing. Everybody's got to sue. And everybody's got to link arms and stand strong. The Big Ten universities are linking arms to push back against this administration. Here is the thing. You are not going to be able to win alone. You need a posse. You need a team to fight fascism. The mentality that all of us need to have. They come for one of us, one college, one institution, one company. They come for all of us. Columbia made the wrong fucking moves. Right now, Florida, down in Florida, DeSantis's little fiefdom, 10 Florida universities have signed pledges to now train their on-campus officers for ICE. Right? They are not only admitting ICE onto their college campuses, but they are also deputizing campus police to be able to go after students. So let me tell you something. I'm a parent. You ain't going to school in Florida. You ain't going to Columbia University in New York. These places are going to utterly shatter their admissions because I don't know who is going to want to go to these schools knowing that these administrators don't give a shit about the kids that are coming in to this school. And people say, oh, well, I'm not an international student. If you look a certain way, you sure as fuck will be treated like one. How about that? And also, last bit of news, yet another American citizen was held by ICE for 10 days who was out hiking, I believe, and don't ask me why the person was hiking without any identification, but got lost and was picked up by Border Patrol. They live in New Mexico. They got lost, 19-year-old, I believe. And his family had to bring his birth certificate, social security card to prove that he was indeed a citizen. Still held for 10 days in detention. So for all of those folks that said, Oh, just follow the rules, right? Just have your documents, just have your papers. It doesn't matter in a fascist regime. No one is safe, not even those that had pledged their allegiance to Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, because they will always smear you on the way out and name you as the next quote unquote enemy from within. Pay attention, folks. This is just Monday. We're just getting started. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. I appreciate all of you who offered super stickers and super thanks today. As I say at the end of each show, this is independent media. Your dollars and donations allow for me to keep the lights on and do the work that I deem necessary. And that is a calling for me. It is not a hobby. It is my main work to keep folks educated, so that you understand your rights, so that you understand your responsibilities as citizens, and that you take action on behalf of our democracy. If you are looking to support me on a monthly basis, please head over to my Substack, The Damn Digest, where you can absolutely sign up to be um, a monthly subscriber, paid subscriber, if in fact you are looking for ways to do that. And then there is also always my Patreon as well. Folks, thank you. And as always, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane. And in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be well.